I want to welcome everybody to today's edition of the Daily Cheat Sheet. Hope everybody has a good weekend since it is a Friday, and hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend. And to the news immediately, I think this is a really important story, guys. Harvard is suing the Trump administration to allow more foreign students to enter their university, and this is all under the guise of Trump shouldn't have any authority over their curriculum. But after the shootings the other night, you would think Harvard might show a little bit of empathy and slow their roll on allowing possibly foreign terrorists into their universities. But apparently, they just do not seem to care. It's hate Trump, allow students who future indoctrinators into our schools.
I think this is one of the more brilliant things that I've seen Trump do. When I first heard about it, I was like, is this something we could do? Have we had this ability the whole time? This is incredible. He's frozen $2 billion worth of federal funding. He's really doing some accountability for these organizations, right? Because the whole concept is it's non-compliance. There are specific measures in place that all universities are meant to do. And let's just simplify it. I can give you every one of the clauses. Keep your kids safe and teach them real facts. That's really it. Anything else a university does is supplementary or unnecessary. And here they're basically saying, okay, we have some executive measures we're going to implement. People will tell me, oh, they're weaponizing anti-Semitism. First of all, we live in a country where all I've heard about for a decade, maybe more, is racism. All I've heard about is racism. This is just racism. So the fact that you don't like Jews, so you're going to say this racism doesn't count, this racism does. We're living in the world that you've created. There are consequences to your actions. There are consequences to hatred and racism and all this stuff. It doesn't mean free speech. Okay. And this is the thing we could talk about this for the entire hour we could go, but I won't even get into it. I'm just going to say, if you are taking money from foreign entities, especially entities that love to finance terror, and you are also importing people like the Mahmouds and everybody else who is going to incite terror, you're going to indoctrinate students with terror concepts, so much so that there are videos of all of them kneeling on the grass praying to Allah, even the ones who are not Muslim. And you're going to make sure that Jews and anyone who supports Jews, which means anyone who supports Western civilization, is going to be either cowed or actually open to violence coming their way. Then there's going to be consequences. And I'm sorry, Executive Order 14188 means fuck you.
Well said. And man, this was the landmines. The Democrats set up 1,000 political IEDs for Trump, and the federal judges being one of them. And this is the biggest struggle. It's why I said immediately, this is not a 4-year plan. We need to have a plan in place to be in power for 12 years, because uh, the judges that we're facing, the Trump administration is facing, they toss out all of these cases. This is going on and on and on. And I'm extremely grateful for the Trump administration for continuing to fight this man.
It's a government's responsibility to protect their citizens, which the last administration completely forgot about. And it's a university's responsibility to protect their students. And
Well said.
they've,
Well
you
said.
know, they've fallen down in both those accounts. So the adults are back in the room and we're taking action that makes complete sense. The only reason that these universities like Harvard and Columbia, whatever, were fighting against that and going along with the nonsense that put a section of their students at risk was because of the foreign money that poured in from Qatar to these organizations. We have transparency laws now on the funding that they get. They need to report that. They haven't been, but it's all going to come out and we're going to see it. And it's obvious what's been going on. And the hypocrites that run these organizations need to be ousted. They need a complete reckoning, a complete house cleaning.
Extremely well said.
And
And
I'll just say one more thing, which is
I was going
if
to,
China is defending you, you know you're on the wrong side of it. And China came out today to say, oh, this Harvard ban will tarnish the US image. Okay, now I know we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna add just quickly to wrap up the story goal that it's important that we keep on putting in the numbers for people to understand. Harvard's endowment is close to $55 billion. $55 billion is greater than most countries' GDP. Next story, I think this is another extremely important story, and that is Trump with the tariffs against the EU. All of us could not be happier about this. I hope I listen, me personally, I don't see the need for the EU anymore. I think England, many people in England realize this when they broke apart from the EU during Brexit, but they seem to be they're almost seeming to become the new Middle East of just doing nothing but causing chaos go on.
Yeah, look, I love when we disagree on things, and I know you just said I think we're all going to be happy with this. I don't love the way Trump is doing tariff stuff. I have to say, it is too willy nilly for me. It's too haphazard every time. I feel like there is a statement. This is going to be what's happening, and this is the amount of time it's going to happen for, and the markets finally relax, and the my own portfolio turns around, and I feel like maybe I'll be able to live another day. A new thing comes up, and whether it's 50% on the EU or whether it's 25% on Apple, if they don't build all their products in the United States, I think these things are built a little bit on shaky ground. And of course, I don't go so far as to say like these are hidden taxes on Americans and it could hurt the middle class, which is the talking points that I've heard over and over again. I feel like I've done too much research to believe in that, but I do believe that there are going to be consequences for the United States, and I don't think it's just as easy as build everything here, isolationism, and all of that, because I think that puts us on dangerous ground as well. That being said, the idea of using tariffs, whether it's against the EU or whether it's against our own companies like Apple, to actually affect change in the world, that makes sense to me. And I will just use one quick example, which is there are I have two kids, and one of my kids just turned 3 yesterday.
Happy
He has a bunch
birthday.
of toys. Thank you very much. And he has a bunch of toys, and a bunch of the toys that we buy are more expensive because we make sure we buy sustainable, organic, and this and that. We see what's available in most places, and we spend way too much money on this stuff as a result of it. But we see what's available in most places. It is Chinese crap. It is the kind of stuff that if a kid puts it in their mouth, they could actually be putting toxicity within their system. And the fact that we have basically given up the idea of healthy toys. You can go buy dog toys that are healthier than kid toys because we at least have to protect the pets. So the idea of using this as a cudgel to say, okay, maybe we do only need $2 instead of 30. I know that that doesn't sound good. The optics of that might sound bad, but maybe it's true because maybe those $2 are going to last longer. Maybe those $2 are not going to give everybody cancer. And yeah, they'll cost a little more, but as an overall, the health of the world will be better. So for things like that, I don't mind using tariffs as a hammer where everything can be a nail.
So thank you for that confusing analysis of your tariff assessment. Possibly one of the most confusing tariff assessments I have ever heard. But Mend, to his point, this is the confusion because old school Republican, old school conservatives are against tariffs. This is something that Trump has brought in with some success, with some failure. Who really knows at this point? But I think this is more of a move of anger towards the EU at the European Union at this point, and I have no problem with him using tariffs to scare the crap out of the European Union.
All right. A couple of things to unpack here. So one is off the bat, I love what Trump is doing with tariffs. It's an excellent negotiating
Can I
tactic.
say something? I knew he was going to be on board. Go
I
on.
knew he would too.
It's an excellent negotiating tactic. Um, the European Union has had tariffs on American goods since World War II, and we let them have that pass because we wanted to build up their economies. Their economies are solid, they're strong. There's no reason that we should be subsidizing them anymore. So if you're looking at what Trump is doing, He's going in there, and it seems like he's a bull in a china shop, just smashing everything to pieces. And he is, and it's great. And everybody's freaking out, as they should be. And what he does, and here's where the wisdom comes in, is that when he sees that it's actually affecting our stocks or bond markets, he adjusts. He's able to pivot. So it's not the way the media is painting it, where he doesn't know what he's doing. One day he does this, one day he does that. No, no, no. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's able to pull it back and adjust so that we don't have an economic crash or crisis because of it. Yet we're getting what we need. So with China, they're already capitulating. They've come to the table. They know that they don't have an option. And the way it works with the Chinese and a lot of these other countries is that they'll start off, the Chinese subsidize the products. So the Chinese government will pay for a factory to be built. They'll pay your salaries for the first 5 years and have you make widgets for, 2 cents for nothing. While in America, it costs $10 to get that same widget. Then, when the American companies fold because they can't compete, the Chinese company gets to raise its prices. Now they've stolen your jobs and they're selling you the crap and sucking all the money out of your country and funding their country. So it's a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. And I'm absolutely on board with what we're doing. I think the administration is doing a fantastic job at this, and they need to keep at it. To hold the line is what I keep on screaming at my computer. Hold the line. Don't give in. They need to
And I
come to
have
the
to ask you a
table.
question.
It's
And I'm curious, since you're so into this, because by the way, like I said, I don't mind when there is a purpose. I don't mind when there is some kind of strategy, when there's some kind of thing we're trying to accomplish as a result of it. Sounds like you are somewhat on the same page with that, but you're even more gung ho. Don't you think that it would be nice if there was a little less volatility when it comes to it, so the markets wouldn't swing wildly? Because there's a way to do this, I think, where we can implement certain things, do it in a measured fashion, be prepared for what's coming. And this thing that happened with China recently, and this is not a debate show, I just want to know your opinion on this. The thing that happened with China recently, where we implemented the stuff, but we weren't prepared to have our supply lines take up the slack. We weren't prepared to really go to war if they decided to stop all the stuff that at the moment they provide that we don't have. And then we just backtrack back and we ended up right where we started, except we had pain along the way and the markets fell. Wouldn't that be nice if there was less volatility? Or do you think this is the right way to
I think this is the right way. I think you need to look at
go? Okay.
the long game, not the day-to-day looking at your stock portfolio. I stopped looking at my portfolio. So I knew that at the end of this, we're going to come out with much better deals with every single country out there. So why would I look at it, on a day-to-day basis? I'm looking at it and saying, I get the plan. I understand what we're doing. We're going to come out of this way better than we went in. So I'm in. I will hold the line with you. I will not complain about my portfolio today because it dropped because of some European market spook. Um, because I know at the end of the line, we're all going to come out a lot better.
well said.
Okay.
And first of all, go on two things. This is something Trump promised. So promise made, promise kept. This is something he did. Now,
Agreed.
as people know, I work with Ben Stein and I work on the world. We have a podcast called The World According to Ben Stein. And one thing Ben Stein has taught me is don't look at your portfolio every day. Okay. Don't look at your portfolio every day. You're not day trading. These are long-term investments. Eventually, the markets will turn around, they'll go up. And the problem is the amount of pressure that Trump faced from on a day-to-day thing from people in his own movement, which was something that I was not very happy about, is just have patience, have faith, and we'll see. You're right. Listen, Americans are not used to volatility. But remember, 2009 was pretty damn volatile, okay? And we've recovered from that.
I learned a great lesson. I got in on some Bitcoin when it was 3,000 and it ran to 21 and I tried to sell and I had a problem with the access to my account. And I was locked out of my account for about 3 months. And in that period of time, it went from I think 21 to 61. And I said, forget it. Now we're just in it for the long run. You don't look at it on a day-to-day basis. You don't drive yourself crazy. If you know that there's a good plan in place, all the noise that the media is making is just noise. You tune it out and you say, look, I know that if we can sell more goods to other countries, overall our economy will be doing better. There will be more prosperity in this country. Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, a hundred
Hey, you
percent.
know what? I told my wife if he's playing 7D chess and it's going to work, I'm in. So far, I haven't sold anything. So I speak a lot, but I'm still holding the line too. Let's go.
And I also want to remind people when you vote for somebody, you vote for I got this from my father actually, especially my parents live in Bergen County in Jersey, which have the highest property taxes in the United States of America. And now my father, when he voted for President Trump because of, especially with Israel. And my father said to me, and Jersey really got screwed with their property taxes from Trump. The blue states really got screwed. And my father said, I'm willing to bite that bullet if it means that. And I think as conservatives, we have to be willing to bite volatility for Trump to get his agenda through. This is what we voted for. Accept the volatility and move on. Next up, I want to discuss, or we want to discuss, this Ukraine-Russia prisoner swap. Honestly, is this real? Is this? I don't mean is it real? Obviously, they're going to swap. Is this just another way of prolonging a war, or is this actually uh, you're seeing two contradictory stories. You're seeing Trump reporting by the Wall Street Journal that the war is not going to end in the foreseeable future. And then you see this story. There's obviously something in the middle go on.
Well, first of all, as we like to say, we don't report the rumor. We're trying to report the facts. And CNN and some other the Independent, some of the other publications that are out there worldwide have said Trump says Putin. What did they say? The strongman Putin isn't ready to end the war. All of this stuff. But then you look at publications on the other side, Straight Arrow News, some of these smaller publications that are more on the right, and they say White House is pushing back on those reports, and Trump is not saying that Putin's not ready for peace. So who knows? Okay, well, I've now read two very convincing narratives, and they are warring narratives. But what I will say is, we're not seeing peace, and it seems like Putin has, as I mentioned, 2 or 3 episodes ago, it seems like Putin has been kind of playing games with Trump. And we'll see what ultimately happens. I think it's not that this is going to extend the war. It's that the war is going to end when it's going to end. This is just good news that a bunch of the people that have been kidnapped by Russia, children specifically, are going to be swapped back in. We're talking about civilians here. And on the other side, about 1,000 soldiers that are going to be handed back. So this to me still feels very skeezy because one side is taking civilians and the other side is taking soldiers. It feels a lot like, when people try to conflate hostages and prisoners. But regardless, it's good that some of these kids are going to be able to go home, and the war is going to last as long as the war is going to last. It's not slowing anytime soon.
I think that's absolutely a great point and great way to analyze the conflation of it. So well said, Mend.
You guys are not going to like it. I think the prisoner swap is a great thing, but I think the term unprovoked war that the media has been pushing all along is bullshit. Um, Under George Bush, the second one, there was a communique from the ambassador to Russia, and the headline was "Niet means Niet," red line. Do not try to pull Ukraine into NATO. And 2 weeks later, we said we're going to want to have Ukraine join NATO. And they said that was their red line. So when the Russians talk about the root causes of the war, I mean, you're not going to get to peace and I'm not at all absolving Russia for invading Ukraine. I think that was wrong. It was a criminal act. And what they did once they were in was war crimes. It amounts to war crimes. There was, especially in Bucha, there was a lot of bad that happened there that is continuing to happen there. But if the West wants to get to peace and you're not going to address the fact that we've added countless countries to NATO on Russia's border, which is what they're saying is their red line, then we're never going to get there. It's just going to be a war of attrition. Eventually, the Russians will win the war. They'll take Ukraine, and Europe will have to deal with the consequences. So when they talk about the root causes and the Americans, American media, I should say, laugh that off. And, they like to say root cause is you invading Ukraine. No, listen, you're never going to get to peace like that. So you need to address the Russians' concerns and then get them out of Ukraine. If the objective is to end the war, then hear them out. If the objective is just to vilify Russia and continue killing Russians and Ukrainians, then sure, go for it. Continue doing what you were doing. See how that works out.
Isn't that a
I,
bit of letting the terrorists dictate the terms, though? You know, if someone says, "I don't want you to go to work, or I'm going to kill your family," and then you go to work and they start killing your family, and it's like, "Hey, I told you not to go to work." It's like, but that you're restricting what I was going to do, my regular life, my freedom. So the fact that you said it doesn't mean it's not. It's provoked. It's still unprovoked. Just you manufactured a reason to do so. Don't you feel like that's a bit of like putting the cart in the wrong place in terms
or
of
as he
the
would
shifting?
say, or as men would say, a lefty talking point.
Well, here's the deal is that I don't, I'm not giving Russia a pass for invading Ukraine. I think that's absolutely wrong. But if you're going to look at it from just facts, the size of Russia, the amount of, the size of their military, and without any help, Ukraine would have been crushed in 2 days. And we gave them some help, not enough help to actually win this war and drive the Russians out. So it's just been a war of attrition. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you want to vilify Russia and call them the murderous state and blah 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 and terrorists, sure, it's not going to end the war. And I don't think you punish them uh, on the battlefield. I think you punish them with sanctions and all the other stuff that you could impose. I think the objective right now should be ending the bloodshed in Ukraine. And I think that's what Trump was trying to do. And I don't think the Russians want to do that because they, they want territory, obviously. And they also want allegedly their root causes addressed. So you call the bluff, address the root causes. You say that Ukraine will never join NATO, and see what happens then. If the Russians continue, you arm the Ukrainians to the teeth and let them kill each other.
Okay, so on that point, I think it's also important just to remember as we're closing up that point is that this is also where I agree with Mend about the media. I would love a media montage of every general on Fox News, CNN, whatever network, the day that war started, saying this will be over in 13 days. And I want a montage of every single general that declared that. The only person I know that said this war will go on a long time is Ben Stein. And the reason I bring this up is because I believe that was part of the Biden's plan. It's ain't no different than Obama was just to let Russia take the land and get it out of the news. And I think Ukraine was the fly in the ointment. And the longer it lasted, the more they forced us into giving them weapons and saving lives.
It's
So,
also worth noting that Russia did not invade Ukraine under Trump. And when there was talk about
right.
invading Ukraine, not Obama, Obama let them get away with Crimea. They invaded, they took Crimea, nothing happened. They did nothing under first Trump administration. And then under Biden, when Biden was asked, he said, well, it depends how much land they take.
Yeah,
Exactly
right.
right.
They
So
just
there
take a
you go.
little.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's the
That's the
cause.
that's what I
There's the
was going
root
to
right.
point to
cause.
that, by the way, because that to me, that and Kamala Harris in her position as vice president, saying, yeah, joining NATO, not a bad idea. Like those things, those are blunders that probably led to this more than anything.
And these are things for discussion for a whole other day about who belongs in NATO, NATO's expansion, all that stuff, or just massive discussions for other days. But I enjoy both of your takes on that. And this is what's important is to have takes on things. Okay. It's important to hear differing points of view. And that's why I brought up if you watch the montage of all the clips from day one of the war, and I think it's General Jack Keane on Fox News, right? This war will be over in 13 days. and he's still the go-to general for advice. And I'm like, shouldn't at a certain point you lose your credentials? Yeah, man. Did you want to say something, or were you just
Well, it's the same thing with the guys, the all the CIA heads that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian
Ex-
disinformation. They're all still on CNN and MSNBC, and they're all still, out there as touted as authorities. They should be shunned. They should be
yeah.
ignored. They should
They
be
should have
shamed.
yeah. There should be like a
Shamed.
community note. It should be like if the media actually if the media actually wanted to get some credibility back, they should do what Elon Musk did on X, which is add community notes. You could literally live as CNN is reporting stories and add community notes. That would be helpful for them and it would be helpful for the public. I want to move on though to the next subject, which is Alex Soros, obviously George Soros' son, and this can't be spoken about enough. Who George Soros is, but this is about his son, and George Soros pretty much uh, left most of his money to a foundation which Alex Soros runs, and him and AOC came out immediately and they apologized, or not apologized. They felt horrific for these two people being murdered, two Jews and a Christian, or Jew and a however you want to phrase it, being murdered the other night at the Jewish Museum. Go on, and I hate using the arson thing because that's what people always do, but that's like the person that started the fire, killed people, then put out the fire, and we thank him.
You know, this is it's all of these people simultaneously. You're talking about Soros, and by the way, for those who don't know, Soros recently married Huma Abedin, another one of the peaches, used to be in Hillary Clinton's group that also is in the same vein as AOC and all the rest of these people who continued to, especially in Soros's case, supported BDS, supported Human Rights Watch, which is a vile, disgusting organization that people use on the left all the time to prove how true all of these lies are against Israel and against America. They finance J Street, they finance Adalah, and on and on and on. All of these anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-American organizations. And now there are actual consequences. We talked about yesterday that straight line from the media into the murder, right? So the idea that now we have someone who is just shouting free, free Palestine, who is part of the organization that was celebrating on October 8th, the day after the massacre, that was marching with BLM, that was doing all the left, left, left stuff that Soros loves. Now he comes out and says these murders are evil in their most basic forms. Look, he's right. They are evil in the most basic forms, but he's the one who enabled it. And that's the thing. I don't need someone to always pull the trigger, right? There is a concept called aiding and abetting. And when you do that, often the sentence is the same as the person who committed the crime. In this particular case, he was one of the chief architects, he and his father, one of the chief architects of aiding and abetting, of enabling this action, of giving permission to psychopaths like the piece of shit that shot those two beautiful people. So for him now to come out, or for AOC to come out, or for any of these other people to come out and start saying how heartbreaking it is when they're the ones who lit the fire, it's as disgusting as I can imagine.
It's important to point out who this guy is. He's the oligarch funding the left and all these progressive radical organizations. Now, some people will love to point out, oh, but he's a Jew. He is not a Jew. His dad was born Jewish and became a Nazi, and his dad looted Jewish homes for the Nazis, then got out of Germany and became a multi-billionaire and funds everything that is anti-Western. He seeks to destroy Western civilization. So anything Western, he's funded and would love to destroy. So screw him and screw Bernie Sanders and all those people that take money from this guy while railing against the
Yeah.
oligarchy.
It's also important, just quickly to note, that he believes in the chaos theory. I mean, that's really what he is. I've often said you couldn't make a Bond villain as bad as him. Tried to break the British pound, banned in Paris. Somebody could fact check me on this for insider trading. He truly he strives on chaos in society and watching its failure. And I believe the foundation is called the Tides Foundation, right? Uh, is that what it's called, Golan?
There's one,
or,
it's the
or
Open,
the
I'm forgetting what,
Open. It's the Open Society Foundation.
Open
Uh,
Society Foundation. That's it.
and I
Yeah.
want to just finish it off with two more quick stories because I think they're extremely important. They're extremely important to both of you because you're both parents. And with RFK Jr. and MAHA, he just came out with his report of what he's trying to do and what he's doing. And regardless of his success rate, if you think he's crazy or whatever it is, he's trying to do good. He's trying to get to the facts. He's trying to help children. And it's amazing the blowback that he's facing from people, including obviously in his own family, for trying to help people go on.
Yeah, I mentioned yesterday that we're a family that eats really healthy. We're an organic family. You know, we are a family that spends more on food than most people do because we want to know where the sourcing is. We want to know whose hands it's gone through. As I mentioned yesterday as well, my wife is half Taiwanese. So we've gone to Asia. This is a place where you really can have no idea, even if the label says this is where the fish is coming from. You have no idea where the fish is coming from. You have no idea what the fish has been eating. The idea that right now, and I'm just going to preface this by saying RFK is a kooky guy. Yeah, okay, we can all admit it. He's done some kooky stuff. But if we dismissed all the kooky people, we'd never have major innovation. We'd never have major change. Right now, in the United States, 40%, it's an insane number, of US children are suffering from chronic illnesses. We're talking about obesity. We're talking about autism. We're talking about mental health disorders. We're talking about chronic inflammation. 70% of children's diets consist of ultra processed food. These are things that people don't even think about. And I haven't even gotten into the dyes and the chemicals. Just the processing of the foods is something that is honestly, it's a national health hazard. There's no other way to put it. The America's kids are in crisis, but I, at the moment, am in Spain. And I'll tell you, watching all the Spanish kids be fat, I am half Israeli. It's one of the few places where a lot less. Why? Because people are eating whole foods. They're eating that Mediterranean diet. They're eating things that they know where it came from. They're able to get the fish out of the ocean. Although, as more processed foods filter there, because it starts with America and it filters elsewhere, it's going to happen there too. If we don't turn this around now, this is going to not just be a health hazard or a health crisis. This is going to be the next pandemic.
Very well said. And Mend, before I forget, you brought up before the show, and I think it's extremely important to remember remind people or tell people what they just released with the vaccine, banning it from children. If you could talk about that quickly. I agree with Golan, and I wanted to ask you about what Golan just shared, which is getting rid of processed food will raise the prices on food. There's no doubt. I have no problem if it means keeping our children healthier, and I know this is not a conservative idea of subsidizing food. Of if it makes children in America healthier, and we could do something to lower the costs at the same time, I don't really have a problem with that, man.
Yeah, look, one is I love what RFK is doing. He's coming in, he's doing the same thing Trump did with the tariffs, but he's doing it with healthcare. They did limit, FDA is going to come out and they're going to limit the COVID vaccine to those over 65 with that have other health conditions. So giving it to healthy children was always insane. I did not give it to my kids. Um, it made no sense. The lies that our health officials were spewing during the pandemic caused long-term harm to our trust in that institution. So the institutions that were the NIH, which was supposed to help prevent pandemics, and the World Health Organization caused the pandemic, Fauci and that team of clowns that were putting out bullshit information on a daily basis to the public, which all came out later. And there's also allegations that he made money off of vaccines and all sorts of other stuff. So I hope they look into that. But as far as eating healthy and clean, we keep it really clean here. I mean, there's some great resources out there like Andrew Huberman Labs, where you can get great information on how to eat clean, how to stay healthy. We start our day all eating protein. The kids are in on it. Everybody's in on it. We try to limit processed foods, but when we eat processed foods, we make sure that our kids know what it is. So what's in that? Does it have red dye 40? Are you eating it? How often are you eating it? Know that it's a cheat day. Like I can't tell them never to eat it. You know, they're in school, they got friends, there's things that they're going to do, but at least acknowledge that it's not good for you, that it is something you only do once in a while. My wife is of Filipino descent, and she's a fitness freak. That was an accident. When we met, I got her to come to the gym with me, and now I'm trying to keep up with her. So she and I put out a thing once, which basically breaks it down to its most simplest form. If you want to eat clean and healthy, it's basically chicken, steak, milk, fruits and vegetables, coffee. I think we had like 6 items on the list. And if it's not one of those things, don't put it in your body. And when you have a list like that, which basically just shows you that it's either a protein from an animal or a vegetable or a fruit, and coffee, we all need coffee. Um, but if it's not one of those things, then you know that you're straying outside the line, and you don't always have to follow that guideline. At least you have it, and you say, okay. And then when you walk by your kids' chicken nuggets that they had from wherever, or French fries, instead of just grabbing one, you can be like, oh, that's not on my list. That's not one of the things that I'm supposed to be eating. Versus just walking through your day and just picking up whatever snack is in the office or whatever's laying around and not even thinking about what you're doing. You're hungry, you eat something. But if you do it with purpose, I mean, we do this all week long, and then on the weekends we go big. So we'll go to Korean
Okay,
barbecue
and
and
just
just
for the record, we will be posting a new show, Men's Dietary and
That's
Mental
right.
Fitness Routine. I find this
nice.
quite amusing, Golan and Mend. I don't mean to break your anonymity, but I'm on the phone with Mend quite often. And 3 times this week, I might have heard Mend cheating off the menu of what his family eats and doesn't eat. Just to call you out quickly. Uh,
Oh,
but
I have to
yes,
say something about this though, and I think this is important because I'm going to use just like Men talked about his specific personal example. I'm going to use something that happened with me. There was a time that I was very poor. I had almost no money to my name. I was the kind of person paying for gas with coins, and I got on SNAP and I got on EBT when I was in the United States. And so I am speaking from actual personal experience. You know, SNAP and EBT covers fresh fruit and vegetables. They cover whole grains. They cover proteins, poultry, and 27 states have double up food buck programs where if you're going to farmers markets, it actually doubles the amount of money you can use. There
that's great.
is no reason that if you are truly dedicated to being healthy, if you're truly dedicated to making sure your kids are eating healthy, that you can't, even people at the lowest income levels using SNAP, using EBT, cannot participate in these programs and really make sure that their kids are eating properly. The other things, I hate to say it, they're easy. And I remember years after I was on that program, driving through Los Angeles and seeing neon signs on the McDonald's and on the Burger King saying, we now take EBT and SNAP. And I thought, this is the degradation of the whole concept of what we're doing here. Because now it's just go get some donuts, go get some garbage and shove it down everybody's gullet because it's easy and it's cheap. Yeah, it means more work. We cook every single night, fresh food. You can do it too, even if you have 2 jobs. I work 2 time zones. I work United States time zone, I work European time zone, and I still find time to do it. This is something that everybody should do some research on, figure out how to do it, and implement. You will thank us in the future, and your kids will certainly thank us in the future.
Absolutely correct. And Golan touches on something that's really important is that in the food stamp, SNAP, EBT programs, they need to restrict and ban you from being able to purchase soda and snacks and all kinds of garbage
Which
and
right
not,
now you can.
yeah. So you
That's
look at these
nuts.
people, and I think it's something like 50% of kids in the US are obese right now. You look at that, and then they're going to complain, and there's going to be some sort of uh, report that comes out that's going to blame it on racism or some other kind of BS. The bottom line is we could pass smart legislation that helps those in need without allowing them to just abuse the program and cause more health issues for them and their families.
Okay, I just want to say I don't. This is a really complicated subject. I think you both raised great points, excuse me, about the EBT cards. Uh, this is going to take generations because it took generations for this to occur. Uh, we often talk about the school systems. Schools end at 3 o'clock every day. I want people to think about that. 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, schools end. Parents are probably aren't home at that point because both of them are working two jobs and kids are out there on their own. So we really need to fix the school systems, whether it's eating programs in the school system, not Michelle Obama's horrific meal choice, but totally fixing our school system from top to bottom. And that's where it's got to start because it's not happening in the families.
Well,
It's just not.
the fix for the school system is really simple. Is if we allow school vouchers, then there's competition, and then the schools will get better because the ones that fail, I mean, we keep on dumping money into failing schools, thinking that's going to make them better, and they're still failing
Yeah.
schools. You do student voucher program. If your school sucks and you want to send your kid to a private school, which just popped up and they're doing great work and they're eager and they're enthusiastic about teaching kids and they have great educators, not to say that public schools don't, but then there's competition. And the ones fighting the school voucher program is the teachers union, which then donates tons of money to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has been the one fighting the school voucher program. So if you talk about the party that is holding back kids, especially inner city kids, where they have the worst schools, from achieving success, it's the Democratic Party and their policies and their payback scheme, the kickback scheme they have with the teachers union.
Okay, well said, both of you. And I just have to point out again, this is very, I think everybody's raising exceptional points. I truly do. But this is where we always have to think of conservatism, of staying out of our houses. And that's a huge tenet of conservatism. And there's got to be a healthy middle ground, no pun intended in this case, where we can come to a some sort of, because it is important for our kids. It is important. We know that their obesity, we know all those numbers are up. So with that being said, I want each of you to tell me one of your favorite stories of the week.
Go on.
I got to say that not because I have any malice for the guy necessarily, and not because I think it's just kind of a funny story, but what's going on with David Hogg right now in the DNC? He's the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and he came in and with a bunch of the traditional kind of, let's call them normal Democrats, not leftists, but Democrats, saying this guy is a fucking idiot and he's going to be the death of the party. Cudgel, cudgel, cudgel. He eventually got in there. And then once he got in, he said, hey, I want to take everybody who's a normal human being that's in the Democratic Party. I want to kick them all out. And I want to bring in a bunch of AOCs. I want to bring in a bunch of Ilhan Omars. I want to go ahead and change the party into crazy town. And the Democrats just suddenly realized, the polling's coming out that's saying AOC is the face of the party. Bernie Sanders is number two. Bernie Sanders is 117 years old. He's not going to run, so he's going to throw his people over to AOC. And oh my God, she might be the face of this whole thing. And now David Hogg is kind of basically saying, I want to support that. And they realize that they're about to lose the entire party. So to me, it's a great story because it's just a comedy of errors that shows how lost they've become.
It's good. You're right. That is absolutely fantastic. My favorite story of the week was when the president of South Africa came to the White House, and the media has been running around for weeks saying that there's, no problem with black on white violence in South Africa. And during the meeting with the president of South Africa, President Trump brought the receipts. He rolled in a TV and they just played clip after clip of elected officials and those running for office in South Africa talking about killing the whites. And then they showed, which was falsely reported by the media, because they showed a clip of a row of crosses which went on for as far as you can see. on the side of the highway, and there were cars lined up and people paying their respects to the over 1,000 farmers who were murdered because they were white in South Africa. Trump said that those were burial sites, but really it was just a cross representing each person that died. The media ran with the story that Trump made a false claim of burial sites and tried to discredit the whole story because of that one part that wasn't completely accurate. But each one of those crosses does represent a dead farmer, dead white farmer. And, the media tried to run cover and twist it, but he brought it. And Caroline Levitt let him have it in the White House briefing room. It was fantastic. It was excellent to see where they couldn't squirm out of it. It was right there. It's what's going on. It is what's happening. So that was my favorite story of the week. The
Perfect. And I
balls.
just perfect. I just want to say quickly in Trump's in anybody's defense, when you're having to think about things quickly, there's no way you're not going to make a mistake sometimes in facts you say. So when I'm doing this and I'm trying to, my thoughts are coming out quicker than my brain could actually handle, you make mistakes. We all make mistakes. The amazing difference, though, between Trump and Biden is that Trump is actually out there constantly speaking from the hip, and compared to Biden, who couldn't use his hips. And it's important to note that we have the most transparent president, again, of our lifetimes. My favorite story of the week, I'll just end quickly, is the fact that for this, whatever you want to call him, that murdered two people the other night, obviously GoFundMe did not accept donations for his bail fund, and Give Send Go apparently also shut down the account. And I think that is, they actually did that. That's exceptional. And to anybody that's trying to donate to this person, you're to blame for the next one. And on that note, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the great comments we've been getting in Apple and Spotify. And I want to tell people, go please subscribe to our Apple channel, to our Spotify. We will be on YouTube. And thank you for the loyalty. It means the world to us. And on that note, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Be safe. And remember why we do have Memorial Day weekend. So on that note, God bless you all.